I didn't do that.
Let's call
Thank
the
you.
meeting to order for today, which is it's May 4th already.
True story.
Where has our spring gone? Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Welcome, almost everybody. I'll leave it up to the sheriff to figure out who I'm talking about. Wright County Board minutes from April 27th. Does anybody have any changes, additions?
Mr. Chair, I will move the minutes from last week, April 27th.
I'll second.
Motion by Commissioner Houston, second by Commissioner Wetter. Any further discussions? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries unanimous. Review and approval of the agenda. Is there anything that needs to get added into the agenda?
I have none.
Mr. Chair, I'll make a motion to approve today's agenda as presented.
I will second that.
Motion by Commissioner Vetch, second by Commissioner Houston. Approve the agenda as written. Any discussions? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries unanimous. Consent agenda. Does anybody have anything they would like to remove for further discussions?
I'd like
Chair?
to, oops.
Commissioner Ketchmark?
Just three things from the under A3 to pull for clarification on the warrants for the week. A3.
Okay. Commissioner Wetter?
Mr. Chair, thank you. I'd like to pull number D, just a couple questions on that, under recorder.
Okay. Anything else? Not, I'll look for a motion.
Mr. Chair, I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda with the two changes and pulling A3 items and letter D, as in David, for discussion.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Motion by Commissioner Ketchmark, second by Commissioner Wetter. Any further discussions? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries unanimous. Commissioner Ketchmark?
Yes, Mr. Chair. In looking through the weekly warrants, I noticed an expenditure for professional services to CBRE Incorporated Valuation and Advisory for $12,600. Did some checking and found that is for legal fees to dispute a property valuation assessment. Another one was Red Rock Fire LLC for Nye Park prescribed burn. So basically a professional fire starting company to help safely burn off some park property. It was 54 acres for the amount of $38.67 and I talked with Parks. It's just a little safer way, professional way to do that rather than our staff and fire departments are kind of getting away from doing a lot of those controlled burns. They do some.
I would also assume that also shifted the liability off to somebody else, too.
I would assume.
Which would be one of the advantages to hiring somebody.
Last one was expenditure to Regents of the University of I is what it's described as. It's Jan through March MOA billing for $50,046.25. Did some checking. That's a quarterly bill, so we pay about $216,000 for the year for wages for horticulture and 4-H staff, and there's an intern in there, and this is the first quarter bill of that for the year. And that's all I have.
Okay. Commissioner Wetter?
Yes, on D under recorder, I guess I was questioning where Indian Lookout is and whether that has been approved by the Wright County Attorney yet.
Mr. Chair, Commissioner Wetter, it's in Corona Township. I've reviewed part of the plat already. There were some issues with the legal description that were clarified, and I was out last week, so I didn't have a chance to approve it before the board. So I was going to do that before the chair signs it, if you approve it,
Okay.
literally within the next hour.
Okay, thank you.
Where's the Indian Lookout located? On Indian Lake?
Yes, there's 6 new lots. Sorry. 6 new lots located north of Indian Lake. They're just right on the lake. The one piece is on the lake, and then the other piece is just off to the left.
Okay, thank you. I know that was one of your questions also.
Yeah,
where
yeah.
it's located, so.
Yeah, he said it was Corinna, so,
All right?
Thank you.
thank you.
All right, can I have a motion to accept those two items?
I'll make a motion to accept the number 3 under A, Administration of Finance, and the recorder, letter D, and the rest of the consent agenda as presented.
I'll second that.
Motion by Commissioner Wetter, second by Commissioner Ketchmark. Any other discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries unanimous. All right, Shane Sheets, Midwest Medical Examiner Office. Are you on that CSI show? You look familiar.
No, I wish I was. We're just not as cool as TV makes it seem. Thank you, Mr. Chair and Commissioners, for having me today. No, I just thought now that the pandemic is winding down, I'd stop by, introduce myself, do a meet and greet. Gary Alberts, our former director, has since retired as of January. He's doing a lot of hunting, so I thought I'd stop down and introduce myself. So that's what I'm doing today. So just if you have any questions, things like that, I'll leave my contact information. But again, my name's Shane Sheets, been in this position since January now as the director. Otherwise, I've been with the medical examiner's office since 2013. So it's nice to meet all of you.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair, Mr. Sheets, yeah, it'd probably be good for everyone to know a little bit about the counties that are part of the Midwest Medical Examiners jurisdiction, and, you know, maybe how busy you are, and, you know.
Yeah, we've definitely been very busy. So presently we have 29 counties where we're the acting medical examiner. And as of last month, we're sitting at 30 counties that we do what's considered referrals or contracts with, where they have their coroner and medical examiner, but they call us for autopsy services in general. As of last month, now we just got the FBI contract where we'll be doing autopsies for services they provide law enforcement to, which would be Red Lake Reservation and Black out in Duluth. So that will be a pretty significant growth for us as well. This last year, we've had quite a few mental health calls, naturally, with the pandemic, and quite a bit of motor vehicle accidents now come summertime. So we've been fairly busy. So it's nice to get out and about and meet everyone.
And how many actual medical examiners that you have? And like, you have the death investigators too that go out and from different counties and assist them in that.
Yep,
correct?
so correct. Right now we have 6 full-time office investigator forensics, which will field for our law enforcement counties. We have 15 of those where we talk on the phone, and we'll field the death investigation report all remotely while the officer's on scene processing the death. So otherwise, we have about 60 field investigators out, which includes Wright County. So we have approximately 5 or 6 medical legal field death investigators out in the field presently in Wright County that act on call 24/7 and will respond alongside the sheriff's office too and process the death investigation. So yeah, we've been pretty busy this past year, as you can about imagine, but no, we haven't hindered operations, and we're still growing.
Where's Midwest located at?
We're in the city of Ramsey, Minnesota. We're actually out in a field. If you know where the VA clinic is, that's where we're sitting out at.
Oh, okay.
So we overlook a big field in the Casey's gas station, actually. If you blink, you'd drive by past us and wouldn't even see it. But we have a capacity of 30 in our cooler itself. It's a very large agency, so if you're ever in the area, don't hesitate to call and come in for a tour.
Yeah, I was in there a number of years ago, and it's, it doesn't look like a a medical examiner's office kind of, it's just, pleasant. It's not where someone might expect it to be, and also it's very pleasant when you walk in, and there's artwork, and it's just, it's, I think, to help people.
It is, indeed.
Kind of made me feel good when I went in there.
That's what we're going for. We didn't want the standard medical examiner look when you walk into the building, all dark and gloomy like you'd see on TV. So when you actually walk in the building, we have what's called a public viewing area where even members of the family can come in and view their loved one, actually before the autopsy begins. It's not taken up too often. We do encourage families to still do that at the funeral home for obvious reasons, because they're able to get them dressed and more presentable, but we still offer that service. And we remain open to the public come June 1st, but we still have been entertaining times where families, especially with the young ones that pass away, where they really want to see them. And we'll make that work out for them still, so.
How many doctors do they have doing autopsies then?
Right now, we have 4 board-certified forensic pathologists, which is almost unheard of across the area here, especially, and which is why we've had so many counties reach out to us, because we can provide that service. And they'll also go out testify in court. At any given time, we have 1 to 2 doctors on that are doing autopsies. And we process them every single day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year, so holidays included, which increases our turnaround time as well, so families can get answers really quick.
Yeah, it's, I mean, you do a real, fine service to our people, and
Oh, we appreciate that.
I know that done in a caring way, so.
Yep. And like I said, if you're ever in the area, please don't hesitate to give me a call, and we'll get you a custom tour, and you can see the whole area. And it is a very nice facility. And one thing that I did want to note is we also have what's called the Lodox machine, and I don't think a lot of people are aware of that, but we have the ability to scan an entire person if they're involved in a motor vehicle collision in under 30 seconds.
Wow.
Which will provide high-quality imagery and x-rays for individuals, too, to look for any sort of trauma and car crashes, things like that. So we continue to try to stay ahead of the technology that comes our way, so a lot of things changing lately.
What is the name of that machine? Or
It's called the Lodox.
okay,
Stat
I've heard of that, but I forgot the name of it.
It was
Okay.
initially designed in South Africa to look for anybody that may be smuggling diamonds and things like that. And they actually discovered and said, you know what, this would be a phenomenal medical device to actually just look for trauma on people, so you can discover soft tissue injuries, everything like that. So it's pretty incredible.
Oh, it is.
Interesting.
So if we quit having car accidents and quit having murders, we could probably put these guys out of business, right?
That is true. That is true, Mr. Chair.
Take away drugs. Oh, yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you
Really
very much.
appreciate you coming in.
Thanks for your time.
Take care.
All righty. Mr. Cody Decker. And I just need you to
Mr. Chair,
state
do
your
you,
name and,
the Virgil, was that item pulled? The number 2, an A,
They'll be on.
approve the agreement 2150 on 73rd Street?
Yeah, it was a late ad.
oh, I didn't catch that one. I'm
We'll
sorry.
Come back
I
to it.
was looking.
I printed this out, I guess, too soon. I guess we need to let us know when our agenda got changed.
He is
Virgil, are you with us?
Yes, good morning, Mr. Chair, Board of Commissioners. Today, there's one highway item. It's to approve an agreement 21-50 with Maple Lake Township for State Park Road Account Project. The township's approved the agreement already, and I'm bringing it forward for board approval.
This was, they got the money then for the parks, or this is being applied for?
Yes, we sponsored their application a while back, and they were granted $460,000 to make improvements to a couple of township roads.
For the parks?
Yeah, it leads towards Nye Park, I believe.
Okay,
Who needs it?
great.
It needs it, yes. Mr. Chair, I'll make a motion to approve agreement 2150 for the 73rd Street and 85th Street near Nye Park for Maple Lake Township.
I'll second.
Mr. Chair, this is a well-deserved funding.
Yes.
This road, if any of you have driven it, is pretty beat up. I think all 5 of us had driven it on our way into the retreat. I still have wheels on my car.
It's a very heavily used road
It is, it
for our
is,
park system.
for sure.
All right, I have a motion by Commissioner Vetch, second by Commissioner Wetter. Is there any further discussions? Hearing not. Is it a resolution or a regular?
Regular.
Just a regular agreement.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries unanimous. Thank you, Virgil. Sorry
Hey,
to-
thank you.
Sorry to not have you on time. I'm sorry, Mr. Decker. Anyway, I need to have your name so that, and address for the record.
Good morning, Mr. Chair and County Board. Thank you. My name is Cody Decker. I live at 9100 Ingram Avenue Northwest in Annandale.
You can take your mask off right there if you want.
I do have some kind of a handout on.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So I'm here today to talk about what I consider a business operating next to my property. So the address in question is 9098 Ingram Avenue Northwest in Annandale. Wayne Deering owns Peak Spray Foam Insulation. He is operating his business out of this location next to my house. It's zoned agricultural. He's in the process of building a large addition onto this building. So early in the morning, they leave and return each day with a large box truck. Another truck and trailer. Delivery trucks are bringing supplies to the property. Employees are coming to the property along with the business owner and his family, making multiple trips in and out. He has been operating at this location for over a year. I've brought the issue up to the township on several occasions, but they have done next to nothing about it. Ben Olson, who does the planning and zoning for Carina Township, told me it is a very gray area in the regulations, so they are allowing it. John Deering is a large farmer in the area. He is Wayne Deering's uncle. He's also the township supervisor, and he currently he owned the property, but he says he recently sold 10 acres to his nephew Wayne to build the addition to essentially house his business. So my complaints are vehicle traffic. There's lots of traffic in and out. Like I said, delivery trucks, employees, customers, company trucks, and trailers. Many people use our small road for exercising. Safety is absolutely a concern, being that it's right in front of my driveway. It's only going to increase as his business grows. There's also traffic 7 days a week on the property. Many times they're loading supplies or testing equipment on Saturdays or Sundays. Our road is a 7-ton road, and it is believed that their business trucks are overweight, empty, as well as a frequent delivery truck that drops off shipments. And they were delivering stuff while the road restrictions were in place. Also the noise. My kids are woken up often. Calm weather makes the conditions worse. Trucks are idling and a generator or compressor is running sometimes as early as 5:30 or 6 in the morning. Vehicles are approximately 100 feet from my kids' windows. I've tried lots of different things, curtains, blinds, putting a fan in the room. It doesn't seem to make a difference when the weather's right, the noise is loud. The land is zoned agricultural, and to my knowledge, there's not supposed to be any building built on that property. It was quite a discussion when the property was actually built. There's more wear and tear on the roads, so are they paying more taxes? My research has shown no. I paid more taxes on my property in 2020 to the township and the county than did this property in Ingram Avenue. And I can guarantee you that they cause more damage to the roads being they have commercial vehicles. So it's up to us residents to be responsible to pay our fair share of the road next time it is fixed. And I actually brought this up to the township board a couple weeks ago, and they told me that's not for me to worry about. So we bought our house next door anticipating it was a quiet area with no potential to build next to us. We have 2 small children, and there's many small kids in the neighborhood. I do have a petition signed by 30 residents on our dead-end road that are against this business. And I do have a copy of that if you guys would like. I did submit this to the township, but they did absolutely nothing about it. The city of Annandale or Maple Lake, I feel, has plenty of places that he can operate a business. I'm just not sure why he chooses to come down our dead-end lake road. And then I do have some pictures of his business, deliveries, what it typically looks outside of his, the location, as well as the taxes that they paid last year on it, which have no indication of any sort of commercial charge or anything other than agricultural.
Mr. Chair,
Commissioner Vetch.
I guess I'm trying to understand maybe this is a question for Greg or Sean. I guess because Corinna Township, being that they do their own planning, I guess I'm trying to understand how that play with the enforcement piece, because I'm not quite sure exactly where the lines are drawn with Corinna Township, because they're a little bit different than, say, the typical township in the county. I guess, could you speak to that, Sean or Greg?
As you're coming up there, the road in front of your place, is that blacktop or is it gravel?
It is blacktop, so I'm right, if you go to Schroeder Park, instead of taking right to turn in, you take the next left. And then all the way down, right before it curves, I'm right there on the corner.
You're right by the Corinna
that's-
Township Hall.
No.
We're opposite, we're down on Schroeder Park.
Oh, sure, okay, yep, okay.
Yep, so if you're going down towards the lake, instead of taking right to turn into the park, you take a left and go down that road it'd be to the east.
Okay,
And that's where we are down, so they're actually down the end of that it's a dead end road, so they have to go past the park to get in there.
okay, I know what you're talking about, all right.
Yep.
Mr. Chair, Commissioner Vetch, you are correct. Corinna Township does their own planning and zoning. As far as an enforcement aspect from our office, anything that we would do, it would have to come from a referral from Corinna Township. We wouldn't do any investigation on our own. So we would possibly look at helping them out, at least on junk issues, this kind of a zoning issue. We could look at helping them out. I don't know to what extent our office would do, because it's not really junk related. It's really more of a pure zoning compliance issue at the end of the day. This really is, I talked with Cody about this too, but this really is more of just a Corinna Township needs to tackle this issue, I think, on their own independently and look at this, because they are doing their own independent zoning. So it's a tough spot for the county to be in, because they have to be as restrictive as us. And I think Corinna Township needs to be given an opportunity to do that. And
Mr. Chair?
no.
Commissioner Vetch?
And that was kind of what I thought it was, because we're in this situation where there isn't a lot we can do per se, other than offer political pressure for them to uphold to it. I mean, situations like this, if it is flagrant enough, I mean, your only option is to litigate if it's flagrant enough. And I hate to say that, because nobody wants to litigate, but you do argue a good case on it, so, but unfortunately, our hands here at the county board are tied, because we don't have the direct oversight of the planning and zoning for Corinna Township.
Yeah, and that's the only thing that I have concern about is, it just, to me, it feels like there's a conflict of interest between the township board, being that John Deering essentially oversees what takes place, and it's his land, it's his nephew. So when I went to the township board to essentially argue my case, I was shot down before I could even speak. And I was even threatened by John Deering himself, saying that he was going to park a semi in front of my road and let it run at 4:30 in the morning, so I'd have something to complain about. And also that they're gonna build a dirt bike track behind my house because they essentially called me a complainer.
Mr. Chair?
Commissioner Houston had her hand up here.
Oh, yeah, so I had a call from the supervisor or the chair yesterday, and basically he said that they can't operate a business without a conditional use permit, which we all know in an agricultural zone. So you have to have and we have them all over the county. You know, people get conditional use permits, and then they have to abide by the terms of those permits. And he said that, so that's what he told Mr. Deering, apparently, but that has to be followed, you know, they would follow through, so they can't operate a business, which, you know, they asked at the Corona Town Board meeting when I happened to be there, you know, what constitutes a business. I guess what constitutes a business, if you have, you know, employees, you have delivery trucks and that kind of thing. So according to that, they would not be able to operate this business unless they have a conditional use permit, and that is up to them if they'd have to go through that process to issue that, correct? Mr. Kreiser, Mr. Riley?
I do have the minutes from when they approved this building permit, and the language, I have some copies of it if you guys would like to see it. The language says that since the board, since there was no work being done on site, they did not feel that there was necessarily a need for a conditional use permit.
So, and then to let this board know, what's happened is he had a building on site, and now he's building an addition or an additional building.
Yep.
Onto that.
A large addition on the end of it. Yep.
So the town board said, well, this is essentially to park vehicles. So, but that's something that, you know, would have to be ironed out, because obviously they have to issue a conditional use permit, or he'd have to apply for a conditional use permit, and whether that would be approved or not, you know, I think would be step after that. But so yeah, can't be operating a business with employees and traffic and trucks and everything, according to our essentially our county laws or ordinances, and they have to be at least as restrictive as we are.
Commissioner Ketchmark?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And we got a lot of good suggestions and referrals for you, but I'm understanding the potential conflict with heavily embedded involvement between your property owner that you're talking about and the representation on the board. So that conflict of interest, I'm kind of just wondering how that'll be fairly addressed there, if that's up to under meeting protocol for the person that's involved heavily to say, step away and say, oh, I'm going to abstain because of a conflict, if that's up to him or some other entity or authority to weigh in on that. That's kind of, because we got a lot of good suggestions and rules, but if you run up against what he's describing here, you know, what is the resolution then for the, you know, an unskewed decision-making process? That's my question.
Mr. Chair, so this would have to go to the Planning Commission in Corona, not to the Board of Supervisors. And I guess I haven't looked for a while to see who's all on the Planning Commission, but that's, you know, hopefully that would be, you know, removed from the Township Board, and to eliminate or mitigate any potential conflict of interest, I would believe.
One thing to add, I did send out an email to the Planning and Zoning Committee in Corona Township with my petition, scan that in, and also this document that I provided to you guys, my complaints, and I have not received anything back. That was last week on Monday. So I guess I don't know what my next step would be.
Mr. Chair,
Commissioner Vetch?
so you submitted it in, did you request to be on the planning commission agenda? In this, because I mean, if it's exactly like this, but otherwise generally, planning commissions, because they're somewhat of a judicial body, they generally don't, they want to see the merits of the case, they generally won't give you a feedback on it till it's presented. Just curious if you actually requested to have to be presenting at the planning commission for Corona Township.
Mr. Chair, I did request to be on the township agenda tonight, township board agenda. I don't believe it's the Planning and Zoning Committee. I believe that's the second Tuesday of the month. So that would be next week. And I just wanted to try and do everything I could, I guess, as soon as I could to prevent the building from going up, because they have rafters, they have everything there to begin this big, large addition. And another thing I was worried is that my house all of a sudden is next to a large commercial building. It's not going to help out the value of my property. So that's why I'm kind of fighting to try and fight as soon as I can.
Yeah, it is. This is a tough one, for sure. Do you have any? I mean, I
think Commissioner Vetch is probably the closest on what can be done.
about going to the planning commission.
Well, that and also litigate.
Litigating, yeah.
Because I'm not sure how much satisfaction I'll get with the planning commission, but I don't understand why they don't require a conditional use permit.
They have to.
But they don't right now.
Right, I think this was, perhaps he was operating without a conditional use permit, or he was, if hasn't got one. And so, according to what the chair told me, is that he was told to stop because he didn't have a conditional use permit. So, I don't know everything that's transpired, but that's what that he couldn't actually be making products, having employees, that kind of thing in that building, but
Obviously, that's not happened.
so,
Yeah, it was 10 to 6 this morning. They were
pardon?
running this morning at 10 to 6.
They're running this morning at 10 to 6?
I really wish there was something we could do. We have to rely on the advice of our attorney, county attorney, assistant county attorney. I don't want to give him too big of a head. So he's the assistant county attorney. I know we offered, and I can't remember, there was some language in us allowing Corinna to do their own planning, and there was some issue, or there was something stated in there that if they failed, or and I can't remember the language. It's been a number of years now. Wasn't there some conditions or something?
Mr. Chair, there's two different aspects to Corinna's zoning authority. One of them is statutory for every area outside of the shoreland zone, and then the shoreland zone, we delegated that authority over to them because they were stricter. They proved that they could be as strict as us. So the one they just automatically do outside the shoreland zone, which I believe this area would be outside of 1,000 feet, right, Sean?
Probably not, but then I wanted the shoreland management.
Yeah, so this area most likely is within their sole delegated authority that they have underneath the statute. So it's the areas like around Clearwater Lake, Sugar Lake, Mink Lake, those parcels we have a little bit more authority on because we did delegate that authority over to them by agreement.
Mr. Chair, because if they're outside the 1,000 feet, they don't necessarily have to be as restrictive as the county.
They need to be as restrictive as the county.
Even if they're within a statutory zone.
Yes,
Okay.
yes.
Yep.
Sean? You were getting up, so.
Yeah, I guess we'd have to measure it.
It can be confusing, but they have authority under state law to do their own planning and zoning, whether it's 10 feet from the lake or 2,000 feet. They need to be as restrictive as the county planning and zoning ordinance. But that's not something you gave them authority to do. They have that by state law, correct? The county designated them to implement the DNR shoreland management zone regulations, which are within 1,000 feet of the lake. So we kind of got both things going here. We have a property that's within 1,000 feet, but they're the planning and zoning authority for the zoning ordinance in that district.
So, Mr. Chair, Sean, so this property is within 1,000 feet? You believe?
I'd have to make sure,
Okay.
but I'm pretty sure. I'm pretty sure it is. Not too far
So
from the
that's-
park, but I'm not confident. I know there's relevance to that if they're enforcing a zoning ordinance issue in that area. This is not a DNR regulation, it's not a shoreland management act. It's about, the Wright County zoning ordinance says you need a conditional use permit to operate a business. So the first issue is an investigation and an interpretation. Is it indeed something that needs a conditional use permit? If that's needed, then there's a public hearing at the decision-making body,
Right.
the planning commission.
So, Mr. Chair, so, or Sean and Greg, so if, for instance, if an issue like this became flagrant and they are outright, I guess, in a methodology of continuing to break county ordinance and being less restrictive than county ordinances, what is the methodology for the county if we had a rogue township that was doing such practices?
It would have to be through litigation, through.
From the county to the township at that point, or would it be?
A one-off like this, I would never advise the county to go forward on. It would have to be a systemic pattern over years, I think, for the county to go and do something.
And that's what I was, I was trying to say,
for-
if there was a cases, like if these were made up and we had dozens of these, then it would be a situation where we would have to try and rein it in.
Yep, where they're approving industrial zones where the county's never zoned it industrial or doing literally flagrant things across the board, then I think the county would step in. On something like this, I think Commissioner Vetch, you hit it right on the head where it unfortunately may end up resulting in private litigation.
You know, I think the only thing you could offer is a reminder from the county, planning and zoning county board that it is imperative that they follow their ordinances and that they are making sure that they are following the same or more restrictive than that of which we have at the county. Anything otherwise holds yourself at potential litigation. You know, just a friendly reminder from that perspective, maybe, if the board feels it's warranted.
And thank you, and Mr. Chair, I know that, you know, there's been other businesses operating in the county, and they have conditional use permits. However, they've violated the conditions of their violated the conditions, I guess. And so then they have, you know, we've intervened, and I know at least in one case that the business did move into more of an industrial area so they can operate their business because they weren't operating within the parameters of their conditional use permits. So I think that happens too.
Mr. Chair?
Commissioner Ketchmark?
And maybe a last suggestion has already been mentioned, but no matter what route you take after this, I would strongly suggest you get on the agenda for planning and zoning to cover that base. Get the documentation and the ruling and whatever decision-making comes from that board, and regardless of where you go from there.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, the other thing possibly you could do, and I don't know if Corinna does their own, if they hire somebody to do their assessments, you could also talk to the county assessor too, just to let them know that there's a commercial building on there, which there should be a charge for a commercial building, especially if they're running a business out of it. So I agree with you on that respect for the tax statement. I wish we could give you a real solid answer, but unfortunately at this point we're not capable of doing that, or able to.
And as I said, you know, and I said at the Corona Town Board meeting too, hopefully we can, you know, come to a good resolution without this getting, you know, to be an increased problem and issue for everyone on that road. And so hope they're working toward that.
Yeah, I know there's a lot of people that are in favor of what I'm proposing.
I haven't hardly talked to anybody, a single person on that road that was in favor of this. The only people that were against signing the petition that I had was because they were worried about repercussions, that they needed to work with the township on some issue in the coming months. They were worried about not being on the township side.
Right.
So that was the only issue that people had with the petition. But as far as the idea of it, everybody was in favor of it.
So you'll be running then for township supervisor next year or the year after?
Potentially.
Thank you,
Thank
Cody.
you.
Yeah, I wish we could help you out more.
Thank you for all the information and,
Yeah. Thank you for your time.
yeah.
You're welcome. All right, items for consideration, department budget review, Commissioner Ketchmark.
Yes, Mr. Chair. So this week, well, I've been systematically going through the Department 100s basically, and emails back and forth with office and department heads, so I got it narrowed down to 1 or 2 points on the different departments that I can just go over here without having the representatives here from the office and departments, and appreciate the cooperation in getting me the information. First one was the vet services with Greg that showed it was under budget, and he explained that some of the columns it was no actual, but there was a budget, and some columns there was a budget, no actual, and he explains that he gets different grants throughout the year, and they don't necessarily line up with the calendar year. So they kind of bounce back and forth from past year to current year. So that's how that kind of looks offset there.
Now, are you looking at this year?
No, that was last year's.
Okay.
Yep.
I was kind of confused there because I thought you were kind of doing this year's stuff and.
No, sorry, Mr. Chair, but this is the reviewing of the 2020 report that we have.
All of them then? Okay.
Yes, all these.
Okay.
Then we had Mr. Job from the surveyor and that budget, and that showed an operating supplies budget of 11,620, and what was spent was 14,880, and it was explained by the purchase of some additional PCs due to some increased road construction projects. There were three, under office supplies, there were 3 cast iron markers that were purchased for $8,000 that offset the office supply budget. So that cleared that part up. 101 recorder with Tanya, I didn't have any questions. Did a great job. Drop in interest rate meant more construction, so more refinancing, but more recording. And her department was working through the pandemic with all that added work. And the assessor's office revenues were up, so it was 7% over on fees, which amounted to $38,000 above on fees collected. And we were charging some municipalities for parcels that we weren't in the past, and taking on some additional assessing duties because there was change in personnel and procedure in other municipalities on assessing. On the planning and zoning side, Sean Riley's fees and service charges, the budget, they were expecting $700,000 collected in fees and service charges. They actually collected $826,466.68. During the pandemic, a lot of extra building going on, so that amounted to more fees and charges being collected. Then we had, under brochures and publications, was over the budget, budgeted $3,000, spent $6,206.55, and that was explained as being 107% over because the price of newspaper articles, the price was raised, and then he did a bulk order on a good deal on brochures. So that was the timing of that. Then repairs and maintenance, 623% over budget because of an unforeseen substantial repair on a scanner that was needed that cost $1,083.79. Under parks, there were line items with no actual amounts to them. That was Mark's area under county parks. And through further checking, I found that finance is working with Mark to mimic a cost accounting system for parks. so that's why it was reflected that way. And that's all I have. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Okay. Mr. Kelly.
Yes, sir.
Now, obviously, I don't have the newest agenda, because I have number 1, Department Budget Review, and then I have number 3, Establish Broadband Committee and Identify 2 Commissioners, and then I have item number 2.
Yeah.
So, is that what everybody else has?
Yes.
Okay. Just so that I'm, less
Keep us awake.
confused.
So go to 2, no.
Which one do you want to tackle, Mr. Chair? The ones that, the way they're listed or the way they're numbered?
Well, I think we should go by the numbers.
Okay.
You all see the 4 different items that we're talking about at the workshop next week?
Yep.
Yeah. Does anybody have anything else to add to this list?
That should
That
be
should
a pretty long
sufficient.
meeting.
Yeah, that,
Probably.
Yep.
Administrator Kelly, is there anything that you want to add to these at all?
No, actually, we did try and move a few things out to June, knowing this would probably be a rather lengthy meeting. I do want to note also, it may come up in updates, but we did have a meeting with a couple of the fire chiefs about the compost facility and a proposal they have. So that I would anticipate would come up with the compost facility discussion as well.
Yeah, it was rather timely that that came up after we had that added to the workshop topic, so.
Okay. Item 3.
Mr. Chair, I requested to put this on there and get this going. A lot of this has to do with the American Relief Funds, which we have the committee of the whole after. But I'd like to get a formalized group with 2 commissioners, along with some other noted members, just because we are getting a lot of opportunities that are coming forward, and we really need to get moving on a plan and really start talking with providers. And I really want to kind of rally a group together on this, so it's not everybody working independently on this. So.
You want the left hand and what the right hand's doing?
I really would like that, because, I have a lot of individual conversations with different people, and I'm not quite sure we're all going in the same direction, so.
Yeah.
No,
And
that's never a good thing.
Yeah.
Mr. Chair, actually Meeker County reached out to us also, in conjunction with what they're proposing in Southside Township and potential for the western side of the county. So I think there is a lot of opportunities and things that we need to look at and
Matthew? And Matthew, for the public, is our IT director who knows a little bit about fiber and that sort of stuff.
Sir, what can I do for you?
Well, now we've sent out requests to the school districts.
Yes, sir.
To try and get some information. Have we had the opportunity to send out information to the current suppliers of broadband fiber related activities in the county yet?
I believe there have been some tentative outreach efforts, but part of the problem is we are waiting to find out what we get from the ARP, and then based on that, we're waiting to determine how we decide internally we'd like to divide up that money. And then based on that, we will know how much is available for things like us putting fiber in the ground versus providing something to providers. So we were sort of in a holding pattern until we got the money. I think this might be a better discussion because there's a lot of, the calculus is complicated. There's a lot of variables involved. The committee of the whole we have afterwards might be a better opportunity to hash that out. I have a number of ideas, and we have actually taken some baby steps to see about, bringing those ideas to fruition. We've reached out to a company to do some napkin sketching architectures for us. But until we get a little bit more information, I think it'd probably be best to get the committee together and just quantify what we know and quantify what we don't know.
And Mr. Chair, because I think at some point here, we're going to have to do an RFI to the providers in the county to find out their interest level on it. And I guess I'd like to try to have a little discussion within this committee and putting that RFI together.
Yes, sir, and we need to make a distinction. There are the providers of, for example, people who would put fiber in the ground for us. That is one type of provider. Then there is the provider of the ISPs that will ultimately provide broadband to the consumer, i.e. our constituents, i.e. the citizenry.
And the biggest one is the last mile one, getting an RFO to the ISPs, to the final miles, because we need to find out how many of them are even interested. I mean, I'd imagine there, but we can't guarantee that, so.
Yes, sir. And that therein is part of my issue. What we're looking at right now is a napkin sketch for ultimately ensuring that we can put fiber in the ground. And then based on our expectations from there, the intention would be then to set some money aside to provide that last mile. The way I'm using it when I explain it to citizenry is I can pave the highway, but I can't pave your driveway. So I can get the highway up to your house, but somebody else has got to do that final bit. And that's what we're trying to get the right hybrid of. The hybrid of us bridging the gap by putting infrastructure in the ground, as opposed to then us turning around and providing some sort of grant program so that an ISP can then, you know, we go halvesies, 50-50, and they provide 50, and we provide 120 houses out here for, say, $80,000, and I'm just pulling these numbers out of the ether. But that is something I think we need to hash out in committee.
Mr. Chair,
Commissioner Wetter?
are you aware of a certain company that, I don't know if I should name it or not, but,
Please don't.
okay, going from Carina down and heading across Rockford Township, which I've been involved with because of the controversy, to going to Greenfield.
I'm aware of several companies with several different initiatives, but we haven't really delved into them specifically because we don't know what our makeup is going to be.
Okay.
And so until we kind of know how we're going to divide up the money, I don't want to approach companies because I don't want to either overextend or potentially underextend ourselves. Okay. I would rather not have $1 million left on the table that we've done nothing with. At the same time, I don't want to promise 3 when we find out, you know, of the 10 million, we're going to need 8 and we're going to be $1 million short. So it's not even I'm playing the cards close to my chest. We haven't been dealt all the cards yet, so there's no way to play them.
Okay. I'm assuming Commissioner Vetch that you put this on, you would like to be one of the members?
I would, Mr. Chair.
Okay. Does anybody else have any interest in it?
I mean, I can be unless you're, I mean, maybe know more about stuff like that than I do, but, or catch my, yeah.
Commissioner Wetter, Commissioner
I sure
Ketchmark,
can.
otherwise I'm happy to.
Yeah, I mean, I'm happy to too, so, I mean,
You guys are the
I
new
have
kids
a lot
on the
of,
block. You have any interest in
I
it?
have a lot of
Go ahead, I
townships
won't
that,
fight you for that one.
My
Well,
kids
thank you
know
for
more about IT than I do.
My intention is to get very technical and deep into details of IP addresses. So if that's something that floats your boat, I think you should hop. If you want to hear a lot of numbers thrown at you very quickly, please join this committee.
I certainly have had, you know, a lot of discussion with my cities and townships in West that they're, you know, seeking, and even not that far, just a couple of miles out in one of the townships, so they do have internet problems. I don't know if
Mr. Chair, I do know Rockford Township had problems because going alongside of a road, and you know the codes, the rules and that,
Yes, ma'am.
and they had to go through different avenues than, they had to go through the state code rather than anything else, you know, because they didn't have jurisdiction over.
Yeah, life cannot be simple on
Yeah.
these sort of things by any means.
No, unfortunately.
So you are aware of that?
Oh, yes, ma'am.
Okay,
Deeply.
great.
Okay,
So who's the second on there?
so it looks like I'll be.
that's fine. I'll make a motion to appoint Commissioners Vetch and Chairman Leiden to be on the broadband committee.
I'll second. Oops.
All right.
I guess they don't want you.
All right, thank you.
Motion by Commissioner Hewsome, seconds by Commissioner Wetter, Commissioner Ketchmark, just trying to confuse Elizabeth over there, or not Elizabeth,
No, he
Angie.
third it.
Angie. Any other discussions? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign.
Mr. Chair, for clarification for administration, the members that, as need be from staff perspective, that I mean, they may not have to attend all of them, just depending on the subject matter, but obviously would be Elizabeth Carroll's, our project administrator, Mr. Fomby, John Holler, and then probably Greg Kreisler, and probably somebody from finance. Some of those ones just from the perspective from the legal agreements that maybe need to be drawn up, and then from a money's perspective on the rules with the ARP and what we can and cannot do. I need those other professionals there. I guess I'll leave it up to Lindsay to decide who would be the person to facilitate that from her.
She got her thumb up.
All right.
All right.
Any other discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries unanimous. Commissioner Vetch, Technology Committee minutes.
Okay, so last week on Wednesday, April 28th, the Technology Committee met with a lot of people. I won't list all their names. You can look if you'd like. Kind of start off with our project update dates. Kind of talked about the CAMA vendor in the meetings with Tyler Technologies. Still kind of working on that project and trying to find the right pathway forward. We also had an update on the contact management center, AKA the call center, which was known before. They're coming in the closing process. Things are going well. Large amount of the meeting was talking about the new government center technology. We kind of had a robust discussion on what is in different conference rooms, what are not, and I guess not everybody's understanding what is available and what technologies they should have. Frank here is going to work together and kind of putting together some different tiers and models and giving an idea of what different more robust conference rooms versus less robust conference rooms, so we have a better understanding which ones really need it, so we're not overdoing it, but we're not underdoing the technology either.
Regarding that, the discussion was either to do a tier type thing or to have a listing of the equipment.
Yep.
And talking with Frank earlier today, he said the listing would be much better suited for the different departments.
Sure.
So they'd be able to say, he'd be able to show what are our normals that were being used throughout the county, what they're capable of doing, you know, so if there's 3 different types of cameras or different size screens, you know, what their capabilities are. So he's going to put that list together.
Mr. Chair, question, what did you mean by tier?
Well, a package, you know,
Oh,
so,
okay.
and it doesn't make sense because there's so many different needs in the different departments.
Okay.
So having a list of the equipment that's available will make it easier for those departments to figure out what's going to work best for them.
Okay.
I use tier more from a simplicity standpoint. I looked at it from when putting in the technology, trying to understand, does it need to be the ultimate technology room, or does it need to be the room that literally we just sit in here and I don't need anything other than table and chairs, and trying to understand.
That's
So
what
we're not- yep.
I just wanted to clarify.
Yeah, so
what my thoughts were.
So having a list of the equipment and what they're capable of doing will make it easier for the departments to
I get it.
figure out what piece of equipment will meet their needs.
Sure, thank you.
So, I'm sorry to interrupt. you,
No, that's
but
all
it
right. You know, it's because a lot of it came down to a discussion then too, so when the building is completed then, so from utilization standpoint, staff, people within there can understand when they reserve this conference room, these are the conference rooms that have the greatest technology versus these are the ones that are not so robust, so you know what you're getting because we're gonna kind of have a mix of different levels.
Okay.
And the decision was that the county boardroom will have the best.
Well, that's the way it should be, shouldn't it?
It is the most citizen engagement room, so. So then outside of that long
Technology on the bottom.
So outside of that discussion, we kind of moved on to talking about the ERP. Things are kind of ebbing and flowing. Still at a possible, and maybe even made a decision that there may be a move back from the June 1st release date. Administrator Kelly's still weighing out his options. Maybe-
Yeah,
Go ahead.
well, just quickly, I'm looking for a comprehensive update to the board on the workshop, so.
Okay, so we'll follow up with that then next week. Awesome. Then we also had the discussion on the website redesign. It's still becoming more a desire to try and get that redesign done. We kind of wanted to roll it out with the new government center. We want to get ourselves a better mobile friendly website, so kind of that discussion. The recommendations were to have a list approach or a tiered approach be created by Frank, our audio visual tech. Then we also. Expert. We should change it to expert.
He's the expert.
Yes. So then we also had kind of an update on the Office 365 and then the enterprise content management. Those were kind of informational. We also had a brief discussion on the 2022-2026 draft CIP. We're still, if anybody staff hasn't turned in their capital improvement information, from a technology perspective, Super Gene is working diligently on collecting that information. Then the other side of it is staff was largely consumed with time with the ERP and Office 365 and then the RMS platform. Those three projects made up about 90% of the IT's project's time. With that, Mr. Chair, I make a motion to approve the minutes and the recommendations from the IT committee minutes on April 28th.
I'll second that.
Motion by Commissioner Vetch, second by Commissioner Houston. Any further discussions? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries unanimous. Commissioner Ketchmark, the Committee of the Whole from April 29th.
Yes, Mr. Chair, thank you. So we got together as a group on April 29th to talk about snow removal and lawn care. And again, this stemmed from public comment last year that asked me to look into this in 2021 about different proposals for the cost of snow and lawn care at county facilities. So when I saw a couple costs come through, then I brought it to the board's attention and the workshop was scheduled. So present there, we had representatives from the Highway Department, Parks Department, Risk Management, Facilities Services, and all the board members. And there was some different math thrown around, I guess you'd say, different amounts. But in the end, the recommendation was to leave the snow removal and lawn maintenance as is, at least until all the departments are moved to the new campus, and then the board will reevaluate in 2022 the most cost-effective option for snow removal and lawn maintenance. And building facilities management will request a more of a detailed description, kind of account of how the subcontractors are spending their time on which sites. And then we'll do a one-year renewal for 2021 lawn maintenance, irrigation, and snow removal. That was a recommendation. So I would make a motion to accept the minutes from the Committee of the Whole meeting on April 29th, along with the recommendation.
I'll second that.
Motion by Commissioner Ketchmark, second by Commissioner Houston. Is there any other discussion? I thought it was a very good
Good discussion.
discussion.
It was good discussion.
To look at different
Yep.
things.
Yeah.
Always got to be doing that.
Well, we need to revisit these things once in a while.
Yep. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries unanimous. Alrighty, advisory committee, advisory board updates. Commissioner Ketchmark.
Yes, Mr. Chair. Well, Minnesota rural counties met yesterday, reviewed the transportation bill, very lengthy in what we supported and opposed. And you can look at that yourself if you're interested. There's a lot of items in the transportation budget bill. There was some other assorted issues that we went over. One of interest is some proposed legislation for hospital workers, and what comes into play is the amount of employees that they have. But the proposal is to have mandated 80 hours of emergency paid leave for employees, and it's COVID related. It's related to if they're under quarantine, if they're caring for family members that have it, providing child care. But the interesting thing is that it's retroactive. It goes back to March of 2020 for 80 hours. And then April 1st of 2021, it could renew for another 80 hours. So a lot of expense was talked about if that would pass. One thing would be the replacement of those folks, especially what I learned is that you have these traveling healthcare workers that come at a very high rate to replace your regulars that would be on this leave. So that was a couple things that we talked about yesterday. Next thing was the fair board met last night. And again, they're planning for a fair. The date's July 21st through July 25th. They also have a large tractor pull that's scheduled, so they're looking at it as a business as usual until otherwise advised. I had a safety committee meeting. Something new there is that we're coming up with some bylaws that are going to be implemented upcoming, and different representatives that will need to be on the board at different roles that's going to be coming up in the future. I think we're going to start that the first of the year when different things fall into place there with different department heads and representation. And that's all I had for the week.
Question, and I don't know, maybe nobody can answer this one, but one of the things that they're going to be having out at the county fair is a Power Wheels demolition derby. Now, can anybody tell me how that's going to work?
The kids gotta wear
Mr.
helmets.
Chair, if that's also called the diaper derby.
No, that's different.
Okay.
No, no, that was different.
Okay, because I could kind of see the connection that you'd be a kid in a diaper driving a Power Wheel, but they didn't talk about that last night specifically. A lot of other events they're trying to juggle. Sounds like most contracts people are coming back from last year. There's a couple that are.
Year before.
Well, they had agreements last year that
Oh.
they're actually
There.
keeping the deposit. They kept the deposits, but they're holding them to it this year, so they're not losing any money, which was nice business deal they had. But I can't answer that. I'm sorry. Maybe next month.
I just found it really curious.
Oh, Mr.
Because
Chair.
I actually sponsored it, so that's what
They're getting creative with demo.
Got a personal connection to that
I'm
one.
just really curious.
Mr. Chair, if
I'm
you see
thinking
what,
of taking my grandson, but I'm afraid that might not be good.
Mr. Chair, if you've seen what my friends do to their kids' Power Wheels, they mod those things out.
Oh, my goodness.
My friends got theirs that go pretty darn fast, as much as a gas-powered engine, so.
Well, that'll be interesting.
For sure.
And maybe I misread it, but that's kind of what I gathered it to be.
It'd be
All right. Commissioner Hewson.
Yeah, so in addition to the safety committee, I was also at the Central Minnesota EMS meeting via Zoom. And we did have we got a grant for, it's called a treatment linkage to care. And that was to help people with drug issues. And we hired someone, but that person did leave after a few weeks, but it can be filled full-time until September of 2022. So, and they'll be working with emergency management. The audit went very smoothly. There was no concerns. And we're going to get more PPP and equipment from the state. So there's a large cash, I guess, from the state. And so they're going to be getting equipment and EpiPens and things that are really quite costly that they can distribute to our people. They, the Central Healthcare Coalition has earmarked funds for EMS, which is great. And also, we kind of had our medical director, Dr. Mary Thomas, gave some information about the vaccines and some of the things that are going on with that. But we were able to give naloxone grants to 4 of our agencies, and there's the more rural fire and police departments that we have in our region. But otherwise, things are things are going along good, and they have the team that they send out for critical incidents, and there was a number of those that went out also this quarter. So, and in a couple weeks we can do an EMS week proclamation. So, and that is all I have.
Alrighty. Last week, met with Lee a few different times regarding different things throughout the county. And I was also privileged to listen to Commissioner Vetch at the CMRP special workshop on action items for Framework 2030, which I thought went pretty good. There's a lot of different ideas out there, and it's going to be important for Sherburne County and Wright County and all the cities and townships involved to try and get onto the same page so that we're not fighting with each other and all holding out for a big box store on every corner of the land. Other than that, in the interest of time, I'll move on.
Likewise, I had a lot of meetings preparing and getting ready for the big meeting that we had last week on Thursday, and kind of for the one last step to actually formally adopt the year-and-a-half study in the creation of the Framework 2030 plan. We had our last step there of kind of actually talking about things we can do or should do and whether we should or shouldn't do them. So a lot of really good discussion. We're going to kind of encapsulate that discussion at our next meeting. Last week on Friday, I presented to the CEO class about my previous business experience as well as the county's role in businesses and from an economic development standpoint and what that looks like. Also kind of a discussion that came up with them is because the Boy-Girl Day has dissolved, the interest in maybe partnering with that CEO class and maybe opening it up to other kids next year, maybe sometime in that February, March time when the new government center is open, and try to encompass maybe a half day where the students can come in and see the campus. And you bring some of the department heads and kind of talk about it, kind of really facilitating a Boy-Girl Day, but we can do it through the Wright Technical Center and through the CEO program.
I think that's a great idea.
So,
Cool.
something that we can kind of keep on the radar, but I'll have staff work with Mark Lee to kind of, as we go into the next year, to make that happen.
I would suggest also that, yeah, we deal with the schools to make sure they don't have any tests that day, because I know that was one of the issues with the Boy-Girl Day,
Right.
is that they would
Yep.
have their, I can't remember the testing now. The one
You know,
for
the big test.
Yeah, the big one, to go to college.
Well,
What-
ACT,
what's the name of that?
I don't know.
ACT.
ACT.
ACT. All I could think is M, and then I couldn't go further than that. ACT.
Other than that, then I can tell you it's thawing outside and it's raining because I've had a number of ditch issues that are now arising, so it's that time of year, so.
That's not raining right now, though.
It's not, so, and that's
Give an
good for me.
update,
Good for all of us.
There you go. That's all I have, Mr. Chair.
Commissioner Wider.
And I had a quiet week, nothing to report, except it wasn't really quiet because we had a total roof replacement due to hail, so, yeah, it was not quiet.
Oh, my.
That's it.
Yeah, okay. Administrator Kelly.
Okay, a lot of the meetings I attended were mentioned by other folks, Tech Committee, the Safety Committee, Committee of the Whole, so on and so forth. Did have a good meeting on Friday. There was a group of the departments out at the Justice Center, kind of did, after the building's been open a little bit, there were some safety and security items that we talked about. It's started a good discussion that's involved emergency management, risk management, and just kind of an overall discussion about universal precautions that we want to kind of springboard into the next facility and discussions with that and use that for the forum. So that took place Friday. Just a couple things of note relative to the EDA. We had put out, if you want to call it an RFP, for requests from information from firms. We did receive 4 responses thus far, maybe getting another one. A couple other ongoing projects. We're working on reviewing the policy manual, starting with the 100 and 200 sections. So as we get through those, expect to see some updates come to the board relative to that. And also, you mentioned capital improvement plan. Sue's been working on that, pulling it together, and we've had a lot of discussions about budget and the timeline and process for that going forward. So plan on discussing that with department heads at the leadership team on Thursday and bring it forward to you guys after that. We get it nailed down, so.
Oh, one thing I did fail to mention, tomorrow we're meeting dental clinic
Yep.
group and reviewing they narrowed down from 7 architects down to 3.
Okay,
So we'll hopefully making that final decision tomorrow
good.
to start moving forward with that sort of stuff.
Nice.
So, and you are?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
I couldn't remember.
It's very interesting,
There was a lot of reading over the weekend.
Oh, yeah. I did it last night, so I'm fresh on it.
Oh, yeah, I couldn't. It was nice to do it, each night. Help
One
me
of
sleep.
them, yeah.
No, they weren't that bad. All right. Nothing else. We are adjourned at 10:16. Meeting.